G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. Happy New Year, everyone. 2024, already into this year, and like 2023 never ended. Straight into it. Lots of stuff going on. The dogs are back into training. A little bit of stuff coming out of there as well. But some big things happening. So we're going to announce the fan poll, the top 17. We actually got the top 18 there. We've got an 18th man on our bench. So we'll show you that soon. Also going to have a competition, which is going to run for 7 days. It's scrolling along there at the bottom to tell you how that's going to work. So because it is a difficult task, naming who our 17 players that are going to run out into the field in round one against our arch rivals Parramatta. Greg Alexander actually said it on SEN, like someone should give a fan $1,000 if they can, run a competition. So it just got me thinking as a way of, giving back to you guys and also promoting the channel a little bit and sharing it around that we could run a little competition. So for the winner, and if we've got 2 winners, I'll give 2 prizes. The prizes will be, you'll be able to select from a bunch of things. I've got a jersey that's been donated. It's a 2XL Bulldogs jersey. I'll put pictures up on YouTube and Facebook and all that sort of stuff for people to see. I've got a 2024 calendar if someone is interested in that. Plus, I've got some mugs and things like that. I'm happy to put up and people could select from something like that. Or I've got plenty of scarves and a couple of other different jerseys. Some are used though, but honestly, most of the jerseys are hardly worn. And any that I do wear, I wouldn't be like I wear regularly. I wouldn't be parting with. But I do have a couple there that if someone wanted to get a jersey and go get signatures on it and get it framed or something like that, might be an idea. There's lots we can do with prizes as well, but there's some other prizes that are going to be announced. Well, there's some merch that's going to be announced from another podcast that's going to do various merch for different teams, and they look sensational. I'm not going to say too much, but I'll probably look to giving one of those away as well to the winner, and I'm sure the winner would want that ahead of some of this other merch that we've got. I'll be buying one myself, so I'm happy to buy a couple and put one up for a competition. So to enter the competition, you'll have about 7 days. I may extend it a few more days than that to name the team you think that Cameron Ciraldo will name 1 hour before the game starts. So that 1 hour before is the official side. So don't worry about the Tuesday. Team Tuesday and all that, and then the cutoff a few days later. It's the team that's named an hour before they run out in the field. That'll be declared the winning combination or the winning team. That's 17 players that start. If there ends up being an injury in the training like 10 minutes before and they have to put the 18th man in, that won't count. Okay? We're going to go with the team that's named 1 hour before the start. That's the official winning squad. And anyone who names that side will either be declared the winner or go in the draw. I'll have a maximum of 2. I might even increase to, if there's 3 winners, I may give everyone a chance of a prize or something and do it in a draw who gets to pick first. If that makes sense, that'll be easy. Not everyone is inspired by Bulldogs merchandise, and I get that. Some people, if you don't really want anything, feel free to let me know and I can put it up again for something else, or auction it on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook group. So the YouTube channel has been growing nicely. So we're up to nearly 700 members, which is fantastic. I can't believe it. And it's only going to get better. I'm starting to reach out to a couple of players as well. And I won't promise anything because, I'm just a nobody from Queensland, I'm from New South Wales, don't get me wrong, but I live up here. It's a beautiful place to live. And, and there's a chance that I could get a couple of people on, but I won't make any promises regarding that. But I have reached out and spoken to a couple of players, which is really good. So we'll see what happens in regards to that. But going to name the fan poll, the 17 players and the 18th man shortly, which is bloody brilliant. Thanks to everyone who voted. It was so clear cut, the starting 13. The bench was a much closer run race, as you'd expect, with a lot more people to choose from. And just a disclaimer, I never included Carla Lawapu in any of the discussions because I just felt with the kid being so young and the fact he's got that injury, and not that it worries him or anything, but I just didn't want to, have him in the discussions yet. I think, if he comes back in and gets things going, we'll see the best of him in the future. But right now, he's got to get his neck ready, and I just thought it was pointless putting him in. And I said it would only be top 30. I did expand the bench to some supplementary players and with the forwards as well, because it was just a bit shallow in that area, to be honest. And I just wanted to see if any other people's thoughts, or if anyone had any information or anything like that. Got a little bit of info out of it, got a little bit of different varied opinions and things to consider. But the team's come out pretty close to a team I would pick. I'm happy with the side. And I'm sure a lot of fans were united in that space. It was a good, 50 different sort of people voted throughout the voting, which isn't a huge pool of people, but it's enough to get a good idea. And when you got 50 people and, 45 of them are all saying the same thing every time, well, that's going to spread pretty far, you would think, considering, we have quite a diverse range of people on the podcast and on the Facebook groups where it was heavily advertised. So thanks for everyone who took part. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea to name teams, but I enjoy doing that as part of my process of getting ready for the season. Also watching plenty of last year's games, plenty of games from before that, lots of Terry Lamb, and just getting as much footy as I can in the hours when a lot of people are sleeping, to be honest. Because that's how I like to wind down, just to watch more footy. Anyway, I'll tell you what, these glasses are great with bourbon in them, but they're pretty good with cold water as well. Gotta love it. All right, so with the competition, you've got to name your 17 players that you think Ciraldo will name 1 hour before the game in round one. You've got about a week to do it, maybe a little bit longer, but get it in ASAP, because we want to make, more of a genuine competition. If we let it run till close to the week out, we're probably already going to know a lot of these. We'll pretty much know the team's going to be. It will be very, very close to it, I think, a week out. But right now, there's still a few things that are up in the air, about Blake Tapp and Critter. Both are training at fullback in the pre-season, whereas Perrin was doing the majority, from what people were saying, watching the training sessions and the little bit of leaks that we're getting out from the closed sessions. So there's a lot there. We're not sure if Bronson Cherry's going to be ready. Like, the consensus is that he's going to go to Cup and work his way through. But, there's still there's a lot of belief that he's going to start and be ready to go. I can't see it happening, but we'll see. I've been wrong about that sort of stuff before. You've got, Sam Hughes. Preston come from nowhere last year. Gus has named him as the Smoky, so everyone is on the Sam Hughes board train. I'm on the train. I think he's a really good player. Probably going to see him in Cup, though, I think. to start and then to see him work his way through. But you never know. You never know. Yeah, so lots of stuff's up in the air. Who's maybe the halfback could be different. It could, Critter might play fullback. Taft might play halfback. It may be Hutchison. It's probably Sexton. We don't know. There's so many different little combinations there that people can come up with. But if we get a whole bunch of winners, if it's very predictable in the end and people get it right, I'll do a random draw for 3 people or something. We'll see what happens, how much interest there is. We will see. Whoever gets involved, please do so. If it's not your cup of tea, don't need to do it. But one thing you can do is go to the Zero Tackle website, and I'll put the link in the comments. Zero Tackle enable you to select your team for any team in the comp that you want, and you just select through the players and for each position, and you can take a screenshot of it or a photograph of it or whatever, and then share that on the All Things Bulldogs group. Or you can just comment your team, your 17 players in the YouTube comments on this video. So come to this video, put your comments in YouTube, make sure you like the video as well. That's just a favor to me. So like it, put your 17 players in. If your 17's the closest, you can win a prize. Simple as that. The merch that I'm going to tell you about on Saturday and Sunday is probably a prize you're going to want to have, because it's going to look awesome. So just saying, I definitely going to want one myself. So we'll get excited about that, and you'll actually get to see what these prizes are on Saturday. And I'll promote the place which is going to launch these things. It's another podcast, and they do a fantastic job. The Nighttime Podcast. They're in Newcastle. The Dean who runs it, he's a Newcastle supporter. There's Penrith supporters on there. They talk about all things NRL. They have different people on. Sometimes they have players on. They have good relationships with players. So yeah, it's like a TV show. It's fantastic, and I can't speak more highly enough of it. Real good bunch of people, and put in a lot of effort, to be honest, in order to get things happening for that show to go ahead. They get sponsors and everything, which is fantastic. So you'll see that if you tune in on Saturday. So we'll have links on the All Things Bulldogs page as well, on Facebook. And I'll share it amongst the other groups and see what they reckon as well. So put your team either in the YouTube comments or comment on the Facebook page where this video is posted. If you can do me a favour, come to here and like it, and like the YouTube video, that'd be fantastic. Like the podcast here. I won't be doing the podcast itself as podcasts on, Spotify and Amazon and that anymore. There's a good 40, 50 people that are listening. I think we're ranked number 15th or something on Apple Podcasts for sport in Australia, which is, I couldn't believe it, but, it's not a huge category apparently, but 15th in Australia wasn't too bad a couple of times. But yeah, it's just the cost with doing it, and it's no real bang for buck. So you can just listen to the YouTube if you can. If people start requesting again that they want me to do it on the podcast, I'll have a look at it. But it's just more work that I've got to do. This is just why I can do it as a one-stop shop here. But there you go. All right, that's the competition. Put your team in the comments in YouTube or on the Facebook page. Come and like the YouTube podcast video and see how you go. Your 17 that you reckon the coach is going to run out with in round 1 against the Parramatta Eels that'll be named 1 hour before the match starts. All right. Been talking for a fair bit about that. Let's get to it. The Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs fan poll, the most popular 17. Here's your winning side. So Blake Taft was named the fullback. Jacob Kiraz, the right wing. Bronson Cherry, the right centre. Stephen Crichton, left centre. Josh Addo-Carr on the left wing. Matty Burton, our 5'8" and captain. Toby Sexton, halfback. Maximus King and Liam Knight to be our front row, with Reid Marnie also the captain at hooker. Viliami Kikau on the left edge, second row. Jacob Preston, the right edge, second rower. Josh Curran to start at lock. Kurt Mann was overwhelmingly the number one supported utility, number 14. Sam Hughes was the number one after that. Then Raymond Fatala Mariner. And Ryan Sutton is our top 17. Jamin Salmon, only one vote behind, and will be our 18th man. So there you go. So Raymond Fatala Mariner and Ryan Sutton got the same amount of votes. They both got like 14% of the vote. Jamin Salmon got 13% of the vote. Sam Hughes had like 18%, and so he was the number one voted for prop, and Kurt Mann was the number one vote. So it was Kurt Mann, then Sam Hughes, and then it was a tie with Raymond Fatala Mariner and Ryan Sutton, with Jamin Salmon really close behind. So there you go. Also, some really good votes for Harrison Edwards and Chris Patolo. They also got quite a few votes as well, so well done to them. So that's our team. That's the most popular side that our fans have voted for. That's not the side I think that Cameron Ciraldo will pick. That's not the side that, will run out. For example, Bronson Cherry may not be anywhere near first grade yet. But fans believe this is going to be our best 17 in each position. Blake Taft was overwhelmingly the number one pick for fullback. Josh Curran was the only selection for lock. And Knight and King, I think we got a vote maybe for Maselli and a vote for Ryan Sutton. But yeah, it was pretty much just a whitewash. Didn't even bother with Marnie or Kikau or Preston because no one was going to go outside of those. So thank you so much for everyone who took part in that. I might even do a draw with everyone who voted, put your name in and see if someone wants something out of that as well, because I was so happy with that. It was bloody awesome. Lots of good feedback. A couple of people early on in the piece sort of were critical of players being named, but that sort of dissipated and went away. It was all about who you believed and why you believed, if you felt you wanted to give information as to why you think that player should have been selected. It's just a positive exercise. It's not a situation where we start running polls about a player because we want to see a player replace that player. Throughout the season, that's a little bit, I just feel it's not very nice. In a popularity contest, you're always going to get someone who stands there and doesn't get picked, or the last people picked for the team. I remember when the two captains used to pick their side at school, and if you're ever the last one, I was the last one sometimes. It was never nice. But the fact of the matter is, they get paid well. They understand the scrutiny. They understand the passion of the fans. So it's all stuff they need to deal with. But, yeah, I don't see the need to do polls on specific players and target specific players throughout the year. But right now it's all the exciting about who's going to run out in the blue and white, who's going to carry our hopes and dreams before they're lost and destroyed after 10 minutes. That's how it's been in the last for too long now. So forgive me for being a bit cynical. So there you go. I'll let that keep running along the bottom. We also, in the notes on this, we're going to talk about Critter. I'll have the new breed series. There'll just be a focus on Critter and what he brings to the side and how I felt he's progressed in his career, and all these little stats and all that sort of stuff. So I'll be releasing that shortly as well. I've got the audio done on that. Just got to put it together. But look, we've been talking about Critter or Taff. Both have been training at fullback. It's not clear at all who's going to start. One thing I believe, and people will disagree with me about this, there's a coach has to know what his spine is when he enters into the day one into pre-season. He has to know. For him to have ideals on the season, he has to have his plan. And the plan starts before they, take a run up a mountain or do a fitness test or anything. Now, I can guarantee you last year at the Dolphins, Wayne Bennett had Anthony Milford starting in his halves as his plan. And when Milf got to training and wasn't up to scratch and whatever happened, he was so filthy that it was like free game. People went to town on him publicly, his own teammates. Bennett said stuff about him. So unless a player at Canterbury is going to turn up and do an Anthony Milford in the preseason, you can 100% expect that Cameron Ciraldo knows who his fullback is, who his 5'8", who his half, or he knows who his hooker is. They can say all they want. I'd suggest he probably knows who his lock is. And there's only going to be a few sort of things that he's sort of got to work out on the run, or someone's going to change his mind and force their way in through their efforts, through, their beep tests, their fitness, their communication, their attitude, all that sort of stuff. There's going to be a few of those players that may change that. But I 100% believe he knows who his spine is. And he also knows who his backup is and how it's going to work as far as contingency goes. Now, I believe he had contingency there last year, but I think this year he'll have a lot more of it. So he knows that Blake Taff, at the moment, with Connor Tracy, can't even train yet. If Tracy comes back to training and starts doing fullback roles, and then one of the fullbacks stops doing the fullback repetitions and opposed sessions, when Tracy comes back to training, one of those fullbacks that are there now aren't as part of that contingency. If Tracy comes back and starts playing in the centres, straight up, well, you'll know that Blake Taff's your fullback and Critter's your next option, and we'll start in the centres or whatever. Or Critter's your fullback in first grade, and Blake Taff's going to be playing fullback in reserves. Potentially. That's just my opinion. I think the two that he has, if he's running those two out there, one's going to play first grade and one's probably going to start in reserve grade. Just my thoughts. Now, Channel 9 released, I forget the name of whoever the journalist was, but it was on Channel 9 or Sydney Morning Herald. There was a story that came through, I think, yesterday. And they suggested that Critter will be likely to be given first chance at the fullback jumper. And I would suggest that, look, Channel 9, Gus works for Channel 9. Rupert Murdoch hates Gus Gould, will always hate him. His company hates him. And not just for reasons they want to hate him, but they would own the game of rugby league right now, completely own it, outright, if it wasn't for Phil Gould. and a few others. But Phil was one of the main reasons. He made so much sense about the ARL and what Super League was doing, and that he turned a lot of people off the Super League. And with him doing that, he was always going to be hated. So Channel 9 have always sort of been the yin to the yang. And you'll notice that when it comes to the Bulldogs, or Phil Gould even, you'll never see News Corp and Channel 9 on the same page anymore while Phil Gould is at Canterbury. Unless it's just an out-and-out sort of thing which you just can't hide. But if there's anything conjecture, you'll find most of the time it'll be News Corp doing the attack, especially if it's on Gould, and Channel 9 being more constructive about it, or reframing it in a much positive way, and then possibly doing, a couple of other stories that are positive in relation to Canterbury and what they're doing off the field, or on one of the players that are trying to come through. They'll work with the club to try and get some sort of positive message out there amongst the negativity. And they did that all through last year. It wasn't just all diabolical about the Bulldogs when they'll lose, 331 points in arrears over the season. A lot of ex-players obviously critical of the Dogs. Players that have always had a disliking of the Dogs. Fittler, still dirty about 2004. Steve Roach, still dirty about 1988. There's a few players who have it in for the Dogs. Andrew Johns, when El Masri kicked the ball, between the posts in 2002. That haunts him to this day, that game and that loss. But anyway, look, the reason I'm saying all of this is that when Channel 9 say a story about the Bulldogs, there's often some sort of nudge, or not always a nudge, but, they're able to get some information about things. And especially when, look, the Dogs are getting pretty savvy with the data and getting savvy with understanding the fan base and the social media side of things. They're improving that space, still have a massive opportunity that they could take and still haven't. They need more than one person. Caitlin isn't enough to do it. Having one cameraman, they do the best with what they've applied as resources to it. If they invest a lot more heavily into it, I believe that they could take it to a whole new level and actually profit out of it. And not just profiting out of it, I'm not just talking about a little bit, but a lot. I've talked about that before. But they know that majority of Canterbury fans are in the Blake Taaffe corner, and even in the Connor Tracy corner, or Blake Wilson as an option at fullback before Stephen Crichton. There's a few people who are definitely excited about Crichton coming and excited for him to play fullback. And look, if he gets picked at fullback, I'm excited for him to play there and to improve there and do well. And I'll talk a little bit about what I expect that he can bring from a fullback capacity as well as a centre. Either way, if we're losing games, he's going to be one of the focal points, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'll talk about him in my little new breed series that I'll put out. I like doing my little videos. But in relation to where he's going to play, I believe that, look, last year Michael Chammas announced it pretty early that Hayes Perham was the fullback. It took News Corp a good month before they caught on. Like they had Jake Averillo locked in as continuing on in that role. And when he only trained at centre all pre-season, it had all been Hayes Perham. And we knew for a month before Foxtel even caught on. But Chammas knew that Hayes Perham, and he also named Hayes Perham as Canterbury's most valuable signing at $150,000 for the season. So, and there was a lot of there was so many photos of Hayes Perriman in the preseason, whereas they hardly had a photo of Jake Averillo last year. So you can't tell me that's deliberate. Jake Averillo last year was kept out of the focus to start the year in the preseason. There was hardly a photo of him. There was hardly anything on him. And he come out in the trials playing right centre, and he was involved in, I think he had a line break or 2 line breaks in every trial, in every game for the first 4 or 5 rounds, got a couple of tries, and looked very dangerous, and they played a style to inject him into games from the centre position. So they had a plan for Averillo, and they executed it, and they got him more money in a deal, and unfortunately he left to go to another club where he may end up playing fullback there, but we will see. They've got 3 options there. I believe he's second choice. I think he's definitely ahead of Farnworth as a fullback option because he's got the experience there. Even Jermaine Asako is also another fullback option for that club. That's just getting off track. So, look, I think that Critter's probably going to be the one they pick. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but for me, on what I think, I don't think it's our best option to start, but it also depends on how they're going to go about things. There's so many unknowns, and all it takes is good performances to quickly shut me and a lot of people up. But when I watch fullbacks, I love what I seen from Blake Taaffe. I haven't loved what I've seen from the fullback capacity from Critter. What I've seen from him in the centres last year, I loved. And to me, that's what I like. But there you go. It's like people talk about Matt Burton at centre and Matt Burton at 5'8". The difference is Burton was always playing 5'8" in the halves before he had one season at centre. And his stats last year as a 5'8" were one of the best in the comp, top 5. Maybe 6 at the worst. His missed tackles were high though, and they increased as the season went on. He got pretty burnt out pretty quick, but he took a while to kick the lever off the footy. But still, statistically, he had lots of forced dropouts, 40-20s, forced errors, try assists, you name it, tackle busts. There was lots that he did that people just obviously just didn't recognise, and they just want to see us win. And when we don't win, the players that are getting paid the most money are the ones they're going to look at. And usually they're the ones that are trying too hard. The likes of Burton and Marnie did overplay the hand at times as well. So it's no wonder that they had lots of involvements in the things that went well, but they also had a lot of involvements in things that broke down, which is probably where a lot of the negative feedback had come from. But one thing you'll say about Reid Marnie is, and Burton, that I believe is that they gave 100% even when they were failing and struggling. I don't believe they went missing. I still, Burton missed some tackles, but he was there to make them. He was there trying to cover and fell off tackles that turned into tries. That's the difference between when you watch a player like that who's attempting and going for it and not executing, which is failure, yes, against people who don't even get across in cover, that give up on the chase, that aren't there when they're supposed to be. And there's lots of players in the comp like that I won't name. But yes, at least some of these players as Bulldogs, you could see that they were making the efforts. They were just fatigued or trying too hard or just playing busted. I don't know what it was, but it's got to improve anyway. All right. So, yes, lots to discuss and debate. That's why we're running our little competition. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of interest from that. And someone will win a nice prize. I reckon the prizes that we're going to have available from Saturday is probably going to override some of the stuff that I can offer. But get excited. Like, free stuff is good stuff, and I get this stuff because I love it, but I'm happy to part with a little bit of it if it if it brings some excitement to you guys, to fellow Bulldogs fans that we're out there connecting and have sharing the same interest. All right, some other news. Dogzilla has just been granted a release from Warrington. Now, he's too old, and I think today's game doesn't suit him as well. But God, I loved him at Canterbury, and he never looked 100% fit. And if he could have he looks a lot fitter now. Actually, looks a lot more sleek. Well, the last picture I've seen of him, and he's had some good games over there. Like, there's some other games where I don't know if he just tried too hard or just lost his brain or whatever. There's some poor performances as well. Very bipolar, very inconsistent. But there were some good games where I'm like, God, he's still got it. He can just do things. Holds that ball like a tennis ball, and just sometimes he just decides to take the game on and just influence the outcome in it. And I don't know, it'd just be a dream to see Dogzilla come back and see the old Dogzilla T-shirts come get worn to the games and have him come on for 15 minutes and cause havoc. I don't know if he's even hungry for that, to be honest. I don't know if there's an appetite for it for him or for the club, but it's definitely a talking point. And I posted around, and it's there's some people very skeptical about it, obviously, and very realistic that it would be a complete mistake. But the majority of fans sort of in that dream, knowing what Dogzilla was and who he was, Big Sam, Slam and Salmon Cassiano. I just hope, look, we don't have much in that engine room. Well, we don't think there's much there. And that's probably what we're going to talk about now, the engine room, the prop forwards. We'll talk about that for a few minutes, and that'll be it for me for episode 28. But in order for someone asked me, are we a top 8? Is this a top 8 team or top 8, top 30? And you never say no. No, it's not. But the big but is, for us, we have pretty much our entire engine room is off contract for 2025. Max King's off contract, Liam Knight's off contract, Chris Patalo and Samuel Hughes. The 4 of them are off contract. Now, Ryan Sutton is here until the end of 2025. So it was a 3-year deal, 23, 24, 25. But you never know with him. Same with RFM. So they can talk to other clubs come November. Apparently, Raymond had permission to talk now. But and I suppose you put those 2 players in the same boat as the other 4, which make up our main engine room. Then you got Famuasili. Sorry, I can never pronounce his name, and I'm hopeless with names. Famuasili. Pawasa. He's on the development list, but are eligible from round 1. So if he's kicking goals and he's fit and he's doing well and forces himself in, they can pick him anytime. So that gives us 7 players straight up. And then you got the likes of Harrison Edwards and the like. But to me, every one of those forwards have to play their best ever season in the NRL for us to make the finals. That's how rugby league's played. It's how it works. It's how the rules. Our coaches play to the rules of the game, require your middle to be at a certain level against their opposition middle. And if they're getting rolled, like we did in numerous games last year, where they're getting bent back when we're defending and when they're getting pushed back when we're attacking, you cannot win. If they can hold parity there, win some, lose some, like a tug-of-war game, and if they can hold their own for even 48%, probably can't go much further down than that, then the likes of your edge, the likes of your back five and the work they're doing, if it all comes together and they're all following a plan and doing a job, you can have some success. And for some games, it's all about hanging in there. If they can just hang in there and then, have a team and just get some luck, and then have a team on the back foot and win them over with fitness. And that's another thing. Does our team have to be fitter? If our team's fitter, what we lack in size, the fitness can maybe overcome some of it. But that's never been something we can say that it's looked like every year that our team has been unfit. And that they look unfit because of the way they're being rolled through the middle. And once you're on the back foot, you're running, you're just doing more work. And when you do more work, you lose more energy. I know all these things sound obvious, but not enough of it's taken into account when assessing how things are going to go. I'm a fence sitter when it comes to this stuff, right? I'm happy. I don't want to be out there making huge predictions and then being cutthroat and saying, if you win, you're successful. If you lose, you're a failure. That's just what the media wants out of the fan bases. They want them divided about that sort of stuff. And then you have the fans who are, very forgiving. I'm very forgiving, but I don't forget. If that makes sense. And what happens with this side is that when you don't have that parity in the middle, you don't have that, if you're not getting the edge in that forward battle in the middle, everything else just falls under pressure. All of a sudden, you're just coming off your own trial line. Next minute, you've got to do a dropout because they force you in goal, because you just slowly, it's just force you backs until you eventually submit, and then you make a mistake because you're being under pressure. Even though the first few sets you look good. And there was times last year, especially when Tavito started playing and getting some fitness under his belt. There was even in some of those games we lost by 40. I saw our side come out for 5-10 minutes even and look like they were 10 times better team than the other side. Looked like they were a better side. The way they were grinding, we looked like we had the edge. And then one thing would go wrong and then we'd open up and it'd be all over. And then the resilience would drop off. So that for me gives me hope that at least the playing group have the ability to look good for parts of a game. And I've said that before, and I'll say it again, because there was that period there between 2020 to halfway through 2022 where we just didn't look competitive. Didn't look like we're going to win. I think the start of 2022, although we only won 2 games, I felt defensively we looked a lot tougher, and we struggled to score points, but games were sort of tight. We just lacked that little X factor. And then, when Mick Potter took the leash off and just let them have some fun, they were able to put on some points and have some fun. But last year there was some really good wins I felt the Melbourne and West game were massive. We should have won by a long way in those games, but only just won them. The comeback against the Cowboys, it was huge. Comeback against the Titans was huge. Just games we would have lost and fallen away and not won. And there was games where we looked really good until we went under some adversity. A player got injured in it. One of our wingers got injured. I spoke about it numerous times. But or we had a player put in the sin bin, which affected us badly. Look, I just seen signs of a team that was, it was unforgivable how inconsistent they were. But to see how high they could go was heights they hadn't gone in a long time, where they come back and won games that they probably didn't have a right to win, and then dominated teams that they should have smashed by a lot more, but only just sort of got there, like the West Tigers game at Belmore. But we saw that level of dominance in them, and that's just something we haven't seen in way too long. Yeah, we saw it in games. The game against St George, I felt we were dominant the whole game, but only just got the win, won by 2 points. Some great play by Braden Burns and Averillo in that game. Amazing. Flano was pretty good last year. I believe should not have been under any pressure whatsoever as a halfback for the first half of the year. It had nothing to do with him, what our issues were. But there you go. We can talk about that all day. So with that engine room, they're all going to have career best seasons for us to make finals. If they can do that. Look, Liam Knight, Max King, they're still quite young, but they're at that age now where, they're big enough. We do need a bit more size and a bit more weight in that pack, yes. But they're big enough and experienced enough that if they bodies can hold up and they can work together as a 1-2 punch, and then have the bench forward come on and already have a platform to work off, we can make this work. We really can. But it's a big if and a big but, because the reality is you're going to get some injuries in there. And as far as depth goes in that front row, all I can hope for is that the likes of Chris Patalo and Sam Hughes are playing big minutes in New South Wales Cup, if they're not in the starting side, and ready to knock down that door when that opportunity comes a knocking. That's what I can hope for. Look, Jaden Tanner was a worthy New South Wales Cup player for us last year, and got a bit of a taste of first grade, but he just looked dominated in the small minutes that he played. Unlike Harrison Edwards, who just kept turning up, got dominated a few times. Unlike Curtis Moran, who kept turning up and adding impact. Those players look like people we can rely on to come into the side and develop and potentially turn into future 150 gamers for Canterbury or for their own careers. But adding Josh Curran, obviously, we don't talk enough about that. He adds spark, he adds mongrel, he adds effort. That win against the Sharks, where he come on as off the bench. Sorry, when the Sharks beat the Warriors beat the Sharks last year. He come off the bench and made a massive impact in that. Even the last play of the game, where they got the penalty, he was the one chasing the ball. Like, all the effort plays that he's involved with are good for us. They're the sort of stuff we're looking for. Raymond Fatala Mariner, redemption story there. Ryan Sutton wants to be, some of his tackling that he did last year, I was really happy with it. Just wasn't enough. But if he can come on, or if he starts and work, him and King, they went all right in a couple of games, but as they started to tire, his injuries came into it. It was, fell to mush pretty quickly. But they did all right against the Storm, especially. in that round 2 game. They showed that there's something there, you know what I mean? We just need that to progress over more games over a season to win more games. And that's how it's going to be for us. I had a lot more hope, obviously, with Tavita and Thompson there last year and Franklin Pele, thinking what that could turn into. But they're all gone now. We feel like there's been a decline in the size and physicality of our engine room. But as I said, if those players have all got something to prove, 4 of them are off contract, a couple of them are free to negotiate either now or from November 25 or November 24, I should say. So they're pretty much all under the scrutiny. There's a few young fellas coming through that are going to do good things for Canterbury in the future. You know, are they going to get quick progression into the NRL next year? The fact of the matter is, if we're going to be a chance anytime soon, the players that are with us now, the best outcome for us, and I said this last year, is that those players do well now. You know, so the players off contract, I hope to God that at least 3 of them are recontracted for next year, because that means we've had a good season, that they've played well. If we have to say goodbye to 4 of those players or only keep 1 or 2 due to necessity, it means we haven't sort of gone as well as we hoped. We need those props to step up. I think they know that. Nothing in contact sports is more defining than having motivation. Obviously, in individual sports like boxing and fighting and stuff like that, it's a little bit, you can take a lot more on, and because you get to own it and be accountable to it yourself. In a team, it's a little bit different, but in this sort of game, in this contact sport, and where them blokes are playing, it's like you got six fighters out there, and they've got to fight, and they've got to scrap, and they've got to overcome their opponents. And if they can't do that, the team will not win. So it doesn't matter what we say or what we think or who we believe is going to be the fullback. It's not going to matter unless those guys can get that job done, which we have to see. All right. We've talked about it. A lot of us agree on these points, but I just like to, look at the possibilities. What's the hope? What's the possibility? If they can just match it at different parts, go through some adversity, do their jobs, show a bit more resilience or a lot more resilience than last year, have some impact from that bench, we can win more games, and that's a start. And after 10 rounds, if we're in a similar position as we were to last year after 10 rounds, to me, that's not a bad outcome. Looking at the draw, we have a tough draw as far as who we play. When we play these games, and the times we play these games are a lot better than what we've had. Have way too many games in the heat of the day, way too many 5-day turnarounds, and playing teams that had a bigger break than what we have had. That was quite common. We'd had less time to prepare for matches than our opposition last year. This year, we have a lot more 6 and 7 day turnarounds than we've had, and we play a few more night games and a lot more of the later afternoon games. I don't care, and I'm sorry to say this for people who only have free to wear, and we just know that when you're not winning games, you're not going to get the spread of the free to wear. That's just the way that they do it. So, unless you're the Broncos. But look, if we start winning more games, we'll get more free to wear games. It's as simple as that. Because we're a big brand and we bring in a big audience. Bulldogs trial matches are usually the highest watched trials outside of Brisbane. Because often the Broncos play with, don't use any of their stars in their trials anyway. They play like Wynnum and stuff, They rarely do trials against big, tough trials against another team where often we'll run out with our best side almost for half a game at least. So, Bulldogs fans, we get amongst it. We're very passionate, as we know. We love to watch their trials. We love to get in there and support our team whenever we can. Belmore's going to host a double header, which will be fantastic. So I think we play the Sharks now at Belmore instead of PointsBet Stadium. And also be another NRL trial there as well. I forget the other two teams. I think it might be the Dragons and someone, or Wests. Can't remember. Too focused on the Bulldogs, obviously. But 2 trials at Belmore is fantastic. Hopefully we get, 10,000 or capacity. Get out there. Get out there and put the pressure on them early. Scream at them. Scream at the opposition. I wish I could get out there. Going to Belmore last year was fantastic. Still dirty that we lost New South Wales Cup and first grade on Josh Reynolds' day, but it was still a great day and met some good people. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. The competition's running. Name your team. The team you think Ciraldo is going to run out with in round 1. You can win a prize. If you don't want the prize, just let me know and I'll give it to the next person. It's all good, but the prizes, I'll put photos and stuff of some of the stuff you can select, but obviously not everything in here I want to part with. You might want the Josh Reynolds face over there. It's fantastic. I got that from Sydney, so that was awesome. But I won't be giving away my premiers from 2004. My son bought me that. But some stuff there I'm happy to part with. Talked a lot about it, but get your competition out there, get your names out there, and win. Good luck. I'll name my team as well. Obviously, someone names the same team as me. Well, you'll be the winner ahead of me. All right, thanks, guys. Go the Dogs. It's getting closer. I think it's like 35 days or something. Take care.